We have we got some meeting, minutes to do, okay?
Is there any questions on it at all?
Nope.
December?
Good job, Brooke.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 10th, 2024 meeting.
All
Second that motion?
in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good job, Brooke. We'll get right into, old business, One Hastings Way.
Believe he's with us.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
You from, could you, just, state your name? Where you
Basu
live?
Sakar.
Yep.
One Hastings Way.
Okay, thank you. And how can we help you?
I have a problem with my bill, the water and sewer bill for the quarter ending 9/30/24.
That abated his sewer. There's a leak, is that right?
There was high usage on the bill, but I don't believe a leak was ever found.
Okay,
So you guys abated the sewer portion of his bill.
okay,
And now I believe usage has returned to normal
okay.
rates. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so what further are you looking for on the bill from?
Well, I paid too much money for the September quarter bill. I paid about, according to my calculation, I paid about $800 over. See, my normal usage is about 11 units a quarter, but this one was like 86 units, 86, which is about 1 unit a day, about 750 gallons a day. That's too much. Something was wrong. They found no leak in my house, but they changed the meter. After the meter, the last bill I got was fine. So I think something wrong with the meter. You should have a program to change the meter every often. This meter was 18 years old. So I should get back the money. You bill me. According to my calculation, I paid, and you bill me again on January 31st, 6/15/18. So I should get back 6/50/18 plus $100, about 715/18 then, plus interest.
Okay, so did we test his meters? Is this the one we never, the meter was never
The
tested?
meter was never tested because it was offered to be tested and there was no request to have it tested, so we got rid of it. It wasn't like we took it and didn't ask.
Right.
It was brought up and it didn't, they didn't
It's
want to have it
been
tested,
replaced.
and it's been replaced.
So the opportunity was there to test it.
Correct.
So it's fine now. The last water bill I got is fine.
So, Mr. Sakar, you were offered to have your meter tested and you declined. Why did you decline to have it tested?
I don't know. I don't think I declined. I thought it's your meter. It's up to you to make sure it's okay.
No, it's not up to us to make sure it's okay. If he wanted to have it tested, he needs to pay for the test.
Right, but we had offered that to him.
That's what I've been told.
I don't remember that. But the
Well, I know
meter-
that's protocol when we do have a higher bill to offer to get it tested. The homeowner would generally pay for the test. And if it came back abnormal in your favor, then we would obviously waive that fee and correct the bill. That's what we do. That's protocol for the water department.
Well, I was not told on all these 30 years. I thought the meter was bad. You should correct it. Because the meter must have been bad because the last bill I got after the meter was changed is fine. So meter must have been bad. I was not told about the details. That I have to pay for the testing, and I don't remember declining anything. The meter was obviously bad.
How would we have offered him to have his meter tested? Would that have been something we mailed or?
No, you just ask them. Not just that, but the leak detection was done in his house with the old meter in it, and there was no leak found.
Mhm.
So it's not like the meter was running exponentially while they were there.
I mean, with an older meter, would you say that was 18 years old? That's not 18 years old, is it?
Well,
Or
you
it
said
couldn't have
that-
been 18 years old.
Yes.
That whole area is not even 18 years old.
About late 2000s, O's, yeah.
Is it really?
Yep.
Okay, all right, my mistake. So, I mean, if it was a one meter, if the meter is one, I'm assuming it's a positive displacement meter. and
Yeah.
It's gonna run, if you're more up to, for it to miss water
Correct.
than to add water. It's not gonna add water. I've never seen it come back tested before, where it's over registering. I'm not sure what else we can do, if without having the meter.
Steve, I have to abstain from this because.
Yeah, I understand.
But could you explain what we did when we first got this complaint? And what our action needs to be, which is no action?
Okay.
So we can explain it.
So when we got the call, when we, of the bill, the high bill, we sent the tech out. And they went in your house and they looked for a leak. They found no leaks, correct? And they looked at I'm assuming they looked at your bill too and saw that there was a jump in that time frame of the bill that was present. That also correct, I'm assuming? That's why we're here.
I think so, yes.
So, like I said, protocol is we check for leaks, we check in your toilets and everything like that. I know we had a leak there before, not in your house, but in that general area that was unfounded as well.
Mhm.
We never found the leak, but the water passed through the meter somehow, some way. We have no idea what goes on the homeowner side of the meter. I mean, it could be something that in the toilet that you're not gonna hear. I mean, I know that one, this gentleman that before, I thought he shut his water off, if I'm not mistaken. In any event, that's no here nor there. But I know that, what we do is protocol for us as a commission, we will waive the sewer charges if you know, that's really the best we can do. And we can't really do much after that, after
Well,
the
I have
fact.
to take it to legal then. I have to file a lawsuit against you. Because I am not responsible for the meter. It's your meter, you're responsible for making it sure it's yours. It's not my meter. And after the meter was changed, my bill is fine. So something must have been wrong with the meter. What else could be wrong?
That's why we offered to have the meter tested.
Water, I mean, if we had the meter tested, when it was offered, when we were told that it was offered to you, it was not done.
Well, I don't remember that.
Okay. No,
Well,
we can't.
also, if there's a leak, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's leaking onto a floor. It could be an internal leak, like a toilet.
The
run.
toilet, then generally it is,
Right.
because you don't
And-
hear
and
it,
generally
you
it
don't
is.
see it.
We've already abated that for him. So we've already
That's what we're assuming.
given you a break of this bill in terms of
Well,
canceling the sewer.
if there is a leak, then it will go away on its own after the meter was changed. Why would it go away? After the meter was changed, the bill is fine. So what could have been wrong? I mean, it's very common sense.
We can only guess from here.
Surmise.
Well, I have to, you know, I'm in the hole of $700. It's abnormal, like in one unit a day, according to this meter, which is about 750 gallons a day, which is absolutely impossible. And after the meter was changed, the bill is correct. So I don't know about your protocol, but you know, it's a simple
What's that?
inference.
It's a toilet, yeah.
Well,
it being so far after the fact and no way of, testing that meter now, I don't know what we can really do here.
I vote that we don't take any action, any additional action.
Well,
All in
then
favor?
I would take it to legal.
That's a motion,
That's a motion.
then I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
So what was decided?
We can't take any more action on that.
Okay, I have to take it, I have to then take it to legal. I have to file a lawsuit against you. Okay,
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 all right, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Three 99 Old Colony Road.
So this was a gentleman who said they were trying to sell the building, I believe, and he had shut his water off inside the building. And
Oh, he doesn't live around here.
I can't remember. I think it's a commercial building.
Is it the Fisherman's Three?
No, it's
No,
not the
okay, I'm sorry.
Fisherman's Three.
Okay.
I thought it might have been. It's the building directly next to the post office. So right after the post office on the right.
Oh, I was thinking it's further down, okay.
Oh, the old,
So
okay.
um,
Adage there.
it's a white building with, like, I think a triangle
Okay,
roof.
yeah.
So they stated the water was off. We couldn't get a read. They got an estimated bill. And they had said the meter was on the outside of the property, leading us to believe it was a meter pit, but it's not the meter. It was the radio
outside
read
meter.
box. But we did schedule an appointment to get inside the building, and we got a visual read, and the visual read was indeed a minimum bill. There had been minor usage, but I think like 2 units total.
Okay.
So it's up to the board to propose to abate the bill, abate the water fees and interest, and abate the bill down to a minimum water bill. Brooke, did we change that meter? Do you know?
We did,
We did. Okay.
because it was a 1999.
Right. Okay. And we weren't getting a reading on it. So,
But
so we got
when you visually checked it, everything was,
everything was fine. It just we weren't getting a reading anymore, but the usage was a minimum usage. So, that's the whole reason we went in there is because their estimated bill was high, and they said, well, the water's been off, the bill shouldn't be high. So,
we got the visual reading that lined up with the high estimated bill, or?
nope,
No,
it
okay.
lined
Lined
up with a
with a
minimum
minimum.
So
water
it was
usage
estimated too
bill.
high,
Yep.
probably.
Yep.
Okay. So we can abate that down to whatever the minimum charge would
Yep.
be.
Yeah, waive the fees.
And the interest.
Leave the interest. Yep.
All right, I'm fine with that if you guys are.
Yep.
Then I will make a motion to abate the water bill for 399 Old Colony Road down to what the minimum usage would be and waive the fees. Is that right?
Leave
The interest.
Waive
interest.
the interest fees.
Yep.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we got some new business coming up.
So the MBTA overlay is actually going to get bumped to next meeting. Paul
Okay.
couldn't make it.
Okay. All right, probably had 6 people just sign off right now. 162 Dean Street, water service.
Yes, okay. So I spoke with you briefly about this a
Yep.
couple weeks ago. So 162 Dean Street is I don't know if any of you know where Old Dean Street is, but it's right before Old Dean Street when you're on Dean Street. And it's a very, very long driveway, probably 500 or 600 feet. The property is a duplex. It was built by a gentleman for his kids, I believe in the 80s, but it's not a duplex where they're apartments and one rents a unit from each other. They're 2 condos. So, and so they're 2 condos. There's a long driveway. There's 1 water service. The water service feeds the unit. If you're in the driveway, feeds the unit on the right. There's a water meter. The unit on the left is then fed water from the right unit, and there's a deduct meter in between, which has only recently been installed. And that's not something we install, that's something they put in on their own.
Okay,
Now, the rules and regulations state that each dwelling must have their own water service. If this was a building that was being rented and, they had a big meter for the whole building, that'd be different. But they're each their own, they both own the unit.
Okay.
Now, the unit on the right, about 5 years ago, I should say, they received a letter that said they need to correct this problem. You can't have a water service serving two homes. They were told it needed to be corrected
off of 1 meter.
off of 1 meter and 1 water service. They were told it needed to be corrected. Neither unit did anything about it, and the unit on the right that the water service goes to and has the meter in it was sold last year. Which we don't really have any provisions to block the sale. Is that correct, Brooke? We can put money on that's owed to us on the MLC, but we don't have any way of blocking the sale. That's something I think that needs to be addressed later. But it went through. The lady who's living in the unit now, and the now found out about this after this situation that everything needed to be separated and whatnot, and they weren't told. She wasn't told that by the people she was buying the unit from. The lady on the left now wants to sell her unit, but she knows that she can't sell her unit until the 2 water services are put in.
Okay.
The second water service is put in. Now, there's some disagreement between the two ladies, and I don't know if it's just a disagreement or a disconnect of information. I've seen them both. I've told them both the same thing. I think maybe I need to talk to both of them at the same time. But from what I can gather, the woman who has the water service entering her unit does not want to have the line cut into and put a T on and feed the other unit.
Before
that-
the meter. you mean.
Before the meter. So that Frank and I had spoken with Danny Rich, who was representing the lady on the left. And we had said, we're not going to make you go back to the street. It's a 500-foot driveway.
Right,
And we're not going to make you do that. We'll let you tie in, 20, 30, 40 feet in front of the house.
Yep.
Cut the line, put a T in, run a line to the left unit, put a meter in, and then sever all connections between both sides.
That makes
Very
sense.
clean and easy. The woman on the right doesn't want her line cut into. She feels it can cause issues farther down the line, which that type of work's done regularly.
Mhm.
And the water service is in her name, and the other unit pays her a water bill. However,
They have a deduct meter, right?
there's a deduct meter. However, the service line is serving both residences. So as far as I'm concerned, it's both of their lines to begin with. Even if it isn't both of their lines, even if it's just the line on the unit to the right, she is still furnishing water to the other
Mhm.
unit, which that is stated, you shall not furnish water to other premises in the regulations. So regardless, either it's both of their line and it needs to get cut into, or it's just her line and then she's violating the regulations. So she had said, can I just shut the water off and make her figure it out? And I said, well, to me, and I spoke with the health department, you can't do that. That's just a health department violation.
Mhm.
So according to the rules and regulations, if you're in violation of any of them, we have the right to shut the water off. So I don't know where the board stands, but I had proposed to them, kind of acting as a mediator, that you cut into the line, you put a T, each line after the T has its own curb stop.
Yep.
And from that T to the curb stop out at the street is documented on paper as a a common area. You know, there are common areas, there's the
Right.
driveway, there's other things that are common
Yeah,
areas.
yeah.
You know, they're a condo. So, you know, that's another thing is not only would she have to go back to the street to make the connection, but well, then who's paying to have the driveway ripped up and paved? So, you know, I said you need to have it drawn up that that's a common area. You both are responsible for paying for it from the curb stop at the street to the T, and then after the T, it's each your own responsibility. I don't know if the board is.
So if they put a T in, there have to be two more like curb stops.
It would be
So,
two-
so you
two
got,
curb
so you got the
stops
one
put
up the
in.
street right here,
The one at
And-
the
and-
street's about 10 to 15 feet in from the property line.
and you put a T here, and she'd have to have a curb stop, and she would have a curb stop after the T.
Yep.
So you can shut them off, and then they have to
Sure.
separate everything inside the house. So they got two separate
Is
units.
the dispute between them a financial one, like who's gonna pay for it, or is she? worried
I
that-
think that the unit that's trying to sell has agreed that she would pay for it, but I think there may be some issue with her not paying the water bill because I don't know if she stopped paying the water bill because the other lady wouldn't let her tie into the line or whatnot. It's a complicated situation, and it's a situation that we don't have really precedent for.
Well, first and foremost, the lady that's responsible, and her name that's gonna be on this meter that's paying the bill, she's responsible for anything from here forward. If this doesn't get, she's the one that's gotta pay for the bill. She's responsible. You know, I hope she understands that,
Right,
because she's the name that we're from our billing standpoint.
right.
But from doing just a simple separation, and this is standard in most towns around. This is what we do in Mansfield too, same exact thing that you're talking about, John. It does total separation, and then you have them both shut off, so in case there's a problem here, or if there's a billing issue, or something we need to shut the water off for whatever reason,
Right.
it doesn't disturb the next person.
Hmm.
Now, but since we don't own this part, that's owned by them.
Correct.
We really don't have any say in what they do, other than if you don't comply with regulations, we can shut your water off.
Correct. Correct.
So as it stands now, the pipe comes inside the structure.
Mhm.
The water
Goes to
meter's
this meter.
inside the building,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and then there's a T coming after that, and one part of that T is going. to
Yep,
the
and
other.
then it's all
Yeah.
plumbed up inside, yeah, correct.
Can this all be done inside? Can we put
No,
a
because
second water meter inside the building?
no, because then you'd have to have access. The woman on the left would have to have access to the woman on the right to have her meter changed, to have anything like that.
It doesn't, it doesn't,
Separate buildings.
doesn't provide separate, yeah. So she's got another meter here, a deduct meter,
Right.
which is, so whatever she uses gets deducted from that, but we don't do that in-house. They do that on their own, so
Right.
she knows exactly what she's gonna need. What she's using.
But it sounds like they're not allowed to do that.
No,
They're not. Yeah,
well,
they're not.
they can do a deduct, that's on them. We don't supply the meter, we don't,
But that's not standard. That's not SOP for us.
No.
no, but it's done for people like, the mall in Mansfield, they do that.
It's more
They
done
have one
for.
Big meter.
They have
yeah.
enough to be the right.
It's more done for that, or if certain towns that will deduct sewer charges if someone's
Right.
filling up a pool or sprinkling their lawn or
So your
something like that.
recommendation is that, you and I discussed it. My recommendation is standard letter, follow our rule and regulations, and give them 90 days to implement it.
Right? Should we?
Whether or not there's a dispute between the two, they'll have to work out.
Yeah, that sounds like something they have to work out.
We can't
Right.
get involved with that.
And that this has to pretty much happen.
Well, so that's the issue. Is that as far as the woman who already has the meter, as far as letting them work it out on their own, the woman that has the meter and the line, her thing is, it's my neighbor's problem. She wants to sell the house. She needs to run it out to the street if she wants to do it. But the woman with the meter is the one furnishing water to the other unit. So she's the one who's actually in violation of the regulations.
But if this pipe going out is a shared pipe between both owners,
Correct.
why does she how can she not allow this person to tap into that pipe?
Well, because technically, right now, it never should have been allowed to get this
He
far.
did it because it was family.
Right. But, on paper, it's not a shared line. On paper, it's her line. And she's giving water to the other unit. Now, the driveway, I think, is a shared driveway, and it's shared with another unit that's not even associated with these, who's over to the right somewhere. So, but, while she says, oh, it could damage my line. Well, right now, if anything goes wrong with the line right now, it's on her entirely to replace
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So, I think both of them need to have lawyers hammer out the logistics of the wording of how they want to share the costs.
So based on what we
But-
know is, we don't believe there's a current agreement.
Correct.
It was originally gonna be family. That's where you started out, so
Yes.
they probably didn't worry about it.
Correct.
When they sold the unit, now it's a problem. So as you probably know, there are all sorts of different easements in the world. One is the right of way in order to travel on the ground is the driveway permit easement.
Uh-huh.
But then there's usually a utility easement, which describes things that happen underground.
Hmm.
It's two different agreements. Even though you may want to say, well, one has to do with the other, but I think it's a mass general law thing. One is a right of way and one's a utility easement. But that's not, again, not our issue.
Okay.
And I've been involved with this problem before and they ended up running a separate water line. I'm just trying to tell you
To the
that
street?
because they were so, what a hot-headed, what the story was, it ended up with a completely separate water line. Which is.
Is there any
silly.
kind of like homeowners association involved in this at all, or?
I don't think so, but I know that there are common areas, at least on paper.
Yeah, it's probably just a right of way in order to traverse the property. What do they do for power? Is it overhead? Are you doing that?
I
No.
can't say, but I believe they share a septic system.
Is that even? That's a whole.
Not my
nother-
monkey,
that's a
not
whole
my
nother story.
circus. But
So if she won't let her tie into this and says, no, you gotta go all the way around the street, she can say, okay, you gotta pay for half of the digging up of the driveway then, because that's a shared.
I
That'll be on them, yeah.
I don't know.
That's kind of a
It's
waste.
not our.
Yeah, to me, that's kind of crazy for both
I
of
don't know
them.
what the numbers would be, but it seems like that would cost a lot more.
Mhm.
Yes, significantly more.
And is there a time frame associated with the fact that,
Well, she wants to sell, right?
Yeah,
But-
she
but
wants to
does
sell.
If she's willing to pay for
does
this,
this hold up the sale?
you know,
You said we don't capital lien on the property having to do with.
Well, we can put the cost of a new water service on the property, but we can't force the
Stop.
work to be done.
Can't stop the work. Can't stop sale.
Not as it stands now. I don't believe we have the. If this was a new build, yeah,
yeah.
we can. We don't have to sign off on a certificate of occupancy. But
But it sounds like they don't also have the option of continuing like it is.
no, well, we've told them that it needs to be rectified. It's on paper that we've told them this is not. And if they don't, then the water gets shut off.
Right,
That's something
right.
we have in writing that we have the right to do. So
Push come to shove, we need to exercise that.
and the lady on the left wants to sell, and from what I gather, if she doesn't sell, she can't afford to keep it. So, that's a whole nother kettle of fish that we really don't want to get involved in. But I'd say a letter needs to be furnished by the commission stating hard line, this is what we expect to happen. And I don't know if in the eyes of the department that should be viewed as a shared line because it's servicing both units. I don't know. It's not a situation where we have precedent.
Well, there's no,
It seems like it should be, since it's two completely separate, it'd be like two separate houses on one lot.
I mean, if it was a family grandfathered in type of thing, that's one thing, but once you start separating them, I know we're gonna go back to our rules and regulations, but we need to have that in our rules and regulations, which you already know that. To make sure that this doesn't happen again in the
Right.
future, because this is a mess. It should be able, these people should not have been able to sell either side of that
Correct.
without this in place.
Correct.
Especially since they sent out a letter 5 years ago. and
Yeah,
made it-
yeah, right.
Yep.
So do we have a copy of that letter from 5 years ago?
We do. I don't know if it's handy at the moment, but I
Can
can
we-
definitely get it to you.
Can we reference that? Maybe when we write the letter?
Yeah. That'd be a good idea.
And this nips this in the bud. Geez, this is terrible. Especially if this lady, yeah, well,
And there's really nothing we can do physically, is that correct? I know it's on private property. but
Correct.
now that we
Yeah.
don't pay, right? So not like we can send the water department out there to do the work, right?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I think we should draft the letter, send it to the commissioners and basically follow what our rules and regulations are.
Yeah, I agree.
And give them X number of days to complete the job.
Is that something we need a motion for? Or you can-
I don't think
draft
so.
the Letter and we sign it.
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, give me the authority to draft a letter and have it reviewed and signed
So
by
be
each
it.
of you.
Yeah, okay.
we need to make a motion for that?
Oh,
Make a
Sure,
motion
might as
to
well.
draft a letter.
I make a motion to allow John to draft the letter for 162 Dean Street situation. For the commission to sign.
So, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good idea, John.
Okay.
All right, super.
All right. So, Brooke and I had worked on the budget last week. Everything seemed to have gone smoothly. We're still waiting on some numbers from town hall as far as, interest on debt and things like that. Our interfund transfers, money that we pay for insurance and other salaries throughout the town. Overall, we didn't really beef up the budget that much. Couple things that we thought, might need to be brought up a little as far as, electricity and gas and propane, but for the most part, other than the standard collective bargaining raises and stuff, the budget is relative. I didn't do the math on what the actual percentage was, but it didn't go up much. 299 South Washington Street. They were extending the old desal water line to connect to our existing. Everything went swimmingly. They connected, pressure tested, chlorinated, sampled, all set, good to go. Line is active now to the at least to the property line. I think it might have been to the town line, but I know it's at least to the property line, which is, the difference is 20 feet, something like
Right.
that. But they installed 2 new hydrants. So they will be tapping that main to start building that building soon, but probably in the springtime. But they needed to have that done to complete the sale of the property.
Yep.
So that's great to have that extra water down there in case, there's a lot of still a lot of land over there, across the street and stuff that could possibly develop, and it's good to have it for firefighting also. I'll skip number 3. I'll
Mhm.
bring that up at the end of this. I received emails about our annual statistical report and consumer confidence reports. Going to start working on those, compiling data, all of our sampling results for the year, any contaminant detections, just information to the residents that they can pick up in one packet and try to know a little bit more about the water in town. The statistical reports more for the DEP cause. It tells them about our gallons pumped for the year, how much we are unaccounted for, all of our operators information, licensing information, lists all of our infrastructure, things like that. It's basically DEP's file on us that we have to update yearly. We had a productive meeting with Wheaton College. They are going to be doing an extensive pool repair for one of their Olympic-sized swimming pools. So I actually think they contracted Weston Sampson to kind of spearhead the project for them, everything operations and everything. Probably won't be till after commencement, but they're gonna pump their pool into our sewer system. They've already cleared it with the MFN. Going to keep the flow rate around 300 gallons per minute. We could probably actually handle close to 6, but between keeping it that way, if there was ever a malfunction with our pump station, it leaves enough room between our wet well and the sewer infrastructure that it won't be backing up for any reason. But that was also a number that was came upon if they were pumping at night through the night, which I don't think they're going to do. So we should have a tech, 10 minutes away at all
Okay,
times
good.
if something were to go wrong. But
How many,
That-
how many gallons would think, how many gallons?
oh, I can't remember. It was a lot. It was a lot. A couple, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
So they'll be doing that after commencement, and that's all going to be, we told them it's not. They kind of came to us, see if they could get a break on the pumping, and we said, no, we're paying the same for MFN, so you're paying us the same to put it in there. It's not the old days where you can just dump it on the ground and ask forgiveness later.
Yeah.
It's chlorinated water, and
Oh, clean the pipe.
yeah. So we've also had a couple of maintenance issues the last few weeks. We had our lock at our center tank just stopped working. It had been vandalized years ago, like years and years ago. And
What lock?
the
To the door?
the lock to the door
To
to the
the-
center tank. And so now it wouldn't even, the internal mechanisms were all broken. So we had that fixed, whole new lock, handle, everything brand new. And then we had them fix a couple other doors that had a couple of sticky issues with them. That was good. Needed to have that done, so that was nice. We also had a heater at our Cottage Street pump house, for lack of a better word, kind of sputter out. So we had a company come out and try to fix it. They couldn't fix it. So they ended up charging us they didn't end up charging us for the parts that they were trying to put in there because it just wasn't working. And a replacement unit, not the exact replacement unit, but we found a replacement unit for $500 that we're going to install. And at $500, if it lasts you 5 years and craps the bed,
Yeah.
you buy another one.
Is it electric?
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, we bought 2. So we bought one for our well 6, old pumping house. The old chem feed room has a electric heater in there, and we just replacing that too, and that's I think $200. The other one I think actually may be LP. I'm not positive
Okay.
about that. So that's what we got as far as that. We also are trying this week. We just put our you guys know we bought a cab and chassis. We just had today the old dump body welded onto that. The bed length is a little longer than the bed we took it off of, so we actually got a kind of a, I think it's about 12 inches wide, 12 inches wide, and then tall toolbox that fits behind the
Oh,
cab
very
and in between the bed.
Yeah.
So some welding needs to be done to have that fit in perfectly, but we sent that out today and hopefully get that next week. Our Mack truck that we ordered, our 6-wheeler, we heard back today, and supposedly it's going to start getting, like, the truck itself is built. Now it was sent out to the outfitter to have, I think, the dump body put on and the other things put on. So that we expect to have at least finished building by the end of the month. So hopefully we can get that by springtime.
Nice.
Now as far as the DEP meeting we had, and I'm sure Tara will touch on this a little herself. Last week we received a letter from the DEP, and it was it wasn't an ACO itself yet. It was a draft ACO, which stands for,
Administrative consent order.
okay. So basically, Norton's violations that on their face are maybe not the, I don't want to say minor issues, but on their own probably wouldn't result in an administrative consent order. They kind of wrap them into one ball and are saying, basically, we have to come up with an agreement with DEP on how we're going to treat these issues, fix these issues, and when we're going to fix these issues. The letter itself reads awfully kind of threatening and uneasy, but upon talking with Tara and DEP themselves, I spoke with Jim McLaughlin, and anyone who's dealt with Jim knows he's a very level-headed, easy guy to talk to and work with. It's kind of, he's trying to use it as a tool to help us get what we need to get the job done. So, we're going to have a meeting with them at the end of the month. Steve, I think you should be there. I wish we could have all of you there, but it's not a public meeting. And we're going to be discussing at least a draft of how we're going to address our TTHM issues, which we already are with the aerator mixer, our lead and copper issues, which our sample results are fine. We just haven't been able to meet the 60 samples the last 2 quarters, the last 2, what's that, semi-annual sampling periods, which again is an easy fix. I'm drafting the second sampling plan in as many half years to try to meet those 60, but our results are fine. They're bulletproof. Even if all of the samples we didn't get failed, we still would be below the 90th percentile for lead. So that, the continued manganese exceedances at well 1, even though it's a limited source, we don't use it all the time, and even when we do use it, it's only pumping about 200 GPM. They still want to see the manganese coming out of that addressed. They understand that it's a blended system. The water that's going to residents' taps aren't the large majority of them are not exceeding the manganese limit, but they want to have a plan in place to have that fixed. And then PFAS, basically they want to know, because we've had one exceedance at well 3 previously in the spring, you guys probably remember we had to shut well 3 off. We haven't exceeded since then for a quarterly result, but we have had individual samples that have been above the limit, but that's not how you exceed. It's a quarterly average. So while we're not in exceedance right now, they understand that it's, a touch and go well, and they want us to, not only for well 3, but all of our wells, have a plan in place for how we're going to meet the new EPA limit, which is 4 parts. The 4 parts per trillion for PFAS 6, Tara, is at 4 parts per trillion per contaminant. I
So
can never remember.
yeah, it's perfect. And it's not, the PFAS 6 is just mass DEP, so you're looking
Right.
at PFAS, PFOA, which are the 2 4s.
Okay.
And then there's so it's different, but it's a lot lower.
Right.
It's an EPA limit or a Massachusetts?
It's an EPA limit
right now.
but it's not in effect yet. But the state, I was speaking, the state has the option to adopt it if they want to now. The EPA is holding off on adopting it with the changing presidential situation. Who knows if it's even going to get put into effect, but the EPA is never going to stop the state from having stricter limits than they have.
They can be
So,
as strict as they want, yeah.
so I would expect that to be not very far down the road, within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
No longer than that, I would say. So,
Yeah.
Well, right now they have the 6 components they're looking at. That's the 20 parts per trillion that they're really earmarking PFOA and PFAS. Is that right?
Yeah, so
Good.
mass DEP has the 6 constituents, the multiple thousands of different PFAS.
Right, yeah.
And they have a total, combining all of those together, their total is 20 parts per trillion. And then the federal government has new regulations, which every state is reviewing at this point and then providing some feedback. But that came out in April, and the
Right.
intent is that's likely going to go across the country, and then everybody's going to move, but it is not like two of the same. And then there's also this hazard index and some other,
Right.
so there's, there's just long-term concerns, but, historically Mass has always been a little bit more stringent than,
Well, you said the EPA one is 4 parts per trillion,
yes, they've
Mm.
lowered it. The goal is non-detect. That's.
so it's
the
gonna go
goal.
from 20 to 4.
And if it was parts per million, we would be in
not
that-
For just
non-detect.
two individuals, one for.
Right.
yeah.
So right now it's 20 for 6,
Total
Okay.
combined.
but so you could have a 3.5 and a 3.5 on each one and you'd be under. But if you had a 5 on one and a 2 on the
those
other,
two
you'd be over.
combined could be 7,
So
and
the
then you
20
have
is
4
still in
others.
play and no more than 4 on any
Right.
individual.
So it's lower.
Current Mass standards, and you need to meet that.
You're right. So, so we're gonna move forward with that. It's it was kind of I'll provide you all with a copy of the letter. It was
Be fast.
jarring to read when you first get it,
Yeah,
but
it's a lot of legalese,
yeah.
but very standard form for
right.
these documents.
So that's all I have.
With the, on the ACO, we're just a state that we need to respond.
Let them know that you can attend the meeting. Yep.
Yes.
And-
Yeah.
But the outcome is we have to respond with basically an implementation schedule when we're going to be.
Or at least a
Plan.
draft that we can further negotiate with them.
Okay.
Yep. So that's all I have. If you want to have Ryan go first, he's
Ryan, you still awake?
Oh, I'm here. I'm still awake.
Brian,
Don't worry.
yeah,
On mute?
Can you hear me at all?
Do we-
Hello?
Did we mute you, Ryan?
Maybe. Can you hear?
Hold
My audio's working. So
Can you hear me now?
what about now? Nothing.
This is Verizon.
It's interesting, we can see his picture here on the computer,
Yeah,
but not
that's
on the
not on
big
TV,
screen.
that's weird.
We'll figure it out, Ryan. Hang in there.
Post
Can't hear you yet.
now, so I don't know.
On the TV, we're not seeing anything move, so.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking like I'm asleep up on the TV. Which I it's
Yeah,
definitely,
good point.
Uh
I have been powered down. I was checking out these. Are we even recording?
we're recording.
oh. Yeah. Anything? Nothing at all?
You're gonna make our lives
Nothing.
easier, that's what they say.
Remember years ago, I had to walk through all that,
Uphill both ways.
yeah, both ways. Through,
No,
through shag carpet,
Hmm,
turn the TV on and off.
Well, this got through public comment period for this.
Yikes.
Ryan, can you hear us? Good, all right, well, that's good.
You can hear us?
I cannot-
He
Oh,
can
so we
hear
can't
us.
talk about him?
Yeah. No.
Brian, you.
Go
still
ahead.
in that picture?
I wouldn't read his lips, Steve. I wouldn't read his lips. How about them Eagles, huh?
I think we are recording still though. But yes.
Hey, here we go.
Can you hear us, Ryan?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
Good job, John.
Well done, Joe.
Perfect. Awesome. So that's probably why you didn't hear me earlier when I said that pool at Norton is like 500,000 gallons that they're planning to pump out.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
Figured you would know.
so yeah, I'll just do a quick update. It sounds like the ACO might take up a lot of time there. But I think Steve did a pretty good job at the last meeting talking about some of the talking points that I'm going to touch on. So the school connection project, that's a pretty big one going on right now. So he explained that we put the project out to bid. Diggett was the low bidding contractor on it for the base bid. we included the base bid, 2 alternates for upgrades at the pump stations each there. So as of right now, we're trying to figure out the best course of action to make sure that the pumps at the high school can handle solids. We're pretty sure they can handle solids, and they can abandon that septic system, connect directly into that wet well, and pump directly into the system. At the Yell School, there's some older Gorman Rupp pumps that they're T2s, so they're a little smaller than we typically would want for solids handling. So we're looking at some alternative conditions or alternative pumps for that in advance of our pre-con meeting. So we have a pre-con meeting scheduled for Thursday, February 27th with the schools and the contractor to kind of discuss those options and figure out what the plan is going forward. And again, they're not going to start construction until the summer, until school's out for that project anyway. So little ways away, but biggest update there is just the pre-con meeting that's happening, and that we're looking into some alternative options for the pumps out at the schools. Regarding the
Well,
pump
this-
stations, sorry, go ahead.
No, that job you're referring to, does that involve the Valentine property too, and going up, no, okay, all right.
No,
So that's
no,
separate.
that's a completely separate project. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, this is at the high school in the middle, or the Yale school. Sorry, not the middle
Okay,
school.
I just
So
want to
high
make
school
sure
and
I'm on
Yale
the same
school.
page, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So for the pump stations in town, I know Steve last time had mentioned that there were a few, I don't want to say issues at some of the pump stations, but the Holly Road generator, there was a coolant leak or something like that, that the contractor had come out and fixed. I assume that is still okay. I haven't gotten any update on that. And John, this is what I was referring to earlier when I said there were a couple pump station things that I wanted to confirm that got addressed from the last meeting. So I'll put this in an email to you tomorrow, just so you have it on your list.
That's a warranty item, is it not?
I believe so, yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I believe it is a warranty item for that generator. And then at Cobb Street, I guess the contractor had just left some materials behind in the pump station, and they were, I think the contractor is Bizco, so Bizco's owner said they were going to get out there and clean up the items in the pump station. So it's pretty easy stuff. So hopefully that is the case. But John, like I said, I'll get this stuff to you tomorrow just to confirm. So
Yeah, thank you.
and then the biggest thing on the list is the Elm Street project. So no true updates from Steve's last update last month. Mike Units and Paul DiGiuseppe are essentially taking the reins on the whole TIF discussion regarding what that's going to entail and how it's going to go down with the town. I do know that there's a select board meeting this Thursday where they're essentially going to be talking about putting the Elm Street project on the special town meeting warrant along with that TIF. So, John, I know you had reached out and said that Steve, they wanted Steve at the meeting. Steve will be back tomorrow, so I can talk to him about that. But I'm sure in some one way or the other, one of us will be there to provide support.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're gonna need you there, but if he could at least make sure he's touches base with Mike Eunice to see what they want, that
Yep.
would be good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A special town meeting for the shed. Yeah.
No, I think that's what they're
That's what they're
discussing.
talking about Thursday, okay.
I was going to ask if any of you had heard if they had scheduled it or not, because we're still kept in the dark on whether or not they're actually scheduling.
I don't
it. So,
believe that they have.
no. So that does play into the schedule of things. I know Steve had mentioned last meeting. I know they had talked about scheduling at the beginning of February, which here we are at the beginning of February, and now it's potentially at the beginning of March. But the further it gets kicked down the road, the further we're at risk of losing that grant money to fund the project. So there are options to front load it if it does get push comes to shove and we do end up pushing it to Springtown meeting. But let's hope we don't get to that point. Trying to stay optimistic on it. So. And then the last thing I have is just the peer reviews. I know Zero Mansfield was still hanging out there. I didn't get to catch up with Steve before he left on vacation, so I'm going to try and catch up with them tomorrow about that final peer review. But I think it's in good shape from what I remember him saying. So hopefully we can just wrap that up this month and be done with it. And I think that was the last outstanding peer review that we had. So. And that's all I have for updates.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks,
Thanks, Brian.
appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, Miss Tara, you are on.
So not too much overall, but just a little bit of an update. So we're still working with the driller on the screen design for well 4. So I think last meeting I mentioned we had completed the drilling, started to analyze the results. It all looks really favorable over at well 4. Just need to kind of discuss what we want to do with the screen, get that ordered, and then get that get installed so we can do the pumping test. And the goal is to try to get that done non-peak demand season at this point, but you're also on the other side of the road, so it's not too bad, but we do need to do a full test on that 48 hours. And then, so what we did last time when we were working on wells 5 and 6, we just made sure your tanks were fully filled up, making sure it was working with all of the other different things in the distribution system that you need to do, water quality, sampling and all that. Make sure the timing's right, work with Derek over at the plant and get that ready to go. But right now you're primarily using 4 and 6. So if we took that offline, make sure that we're not doing it in an opportune time. So that'll be a decent amount of coordination for that. But that's probably still, I think things have gotten a little bit better, but I want to say it's probably still about a month out till, we decide on the screen and delivery as far as that goes. But I should have a better idea next meeting of exactly when that'll be scheduled for installation. So I think, as far as the aerator project goes, we're kind of in the same boat with as Elm Street. We're waiting to put that on the special town meeting. There was some notes in the draft administrative consent order by DEP to put aerators in all the tanks. It wasn't our original intent to do that, but certainly it can be done. We just want, this was the primary one because it kind of feeds the rest of your system. So it also feeds Richardson Ave, which is kind of your problem child right now. So, and then Cottage Street Elevated gets filled by Cottage Street ground storage. So your 2 million gallon ground storage is our main focus. Then that water, goes right up to Cottage Street and then out into the system in that location towards the western side of the system. So that's our intent. We can kind of talk through as we work with DEP on the negotiations of how we want to rephrase some of the administrative consent orders. And then I mentioned that Southwestern Street is shut down for the winter. I did have one of my inspectors that was out there go by. Seems everything's, looks pretty good. Just want to make sure if there's any issues. We have seen in other communities having some issues with this, intense freeze, 40 degrees, so there could be some frost heaving and stuff like that. So if you do see anything, feel free to call them immediately if there's an emergency, but let us know, keep it in the loop if there's anything we can do on. But from what we can tell, things look pretty good out there for now. So keep that going. And then just to kind of, I think that John gave you a pretty good summary. We had a good call with DEP. It was kind of a preliminary call just to kind of check in. Hey, what was the purpose of this? And that it was more of a holistic approach, kind of have it all together. There are 2 benefits to an ACO. There's some negatives, obviously, because you're on the hook and you need to have a time frame and you can get fines. But on the other hand, it can help you with scoring for points for SRF funding, as well as to use it as a leverage point with town meetings and indicate, well, the state is now finally indicated we got to do something and we're required to do it, by the state, and help to try to get things to pass easier through town meeting. So, as far as the DEP is concerned, while it is something that, came across as a little bit of a shock and a little bit of a concerning letter, the language is like, if you do not respond, you will be prosecuted and stuff like that. So, it is something that can be to a benefit too. So we've known that there's been some manganese issues for quite a while over at well 1. It's a secondary contaminant, just kind of one of those things where based on usage, the hope is you don't have to use it too much in this. I think John gave you great, we've been talking about this for a while. It's this very small area in town. It's a blended system for the most part. Right after you come out of that well, it gets mixed right away, and it's pretty minimal for the customers. THM's been ongoing, again, started that project. We also just recently received a signed executed copy at the last meeting for the alternatives analysis. So that included PFAS to look at that, look at optimization at the treatment plant, take a look at THMs in your system as well, and then also kind of look at well 1 and talk about well 1 and 2, potentially transferring flow over to well 1, maybe even putting a well field in, just taking a look at that, of making it a little bit more beneficial if you did want to put treatment over there. putting a treatment plant in comes with a lot of costs. There's other implications with an operator needs to be, primary operator needs to be there. So, there's a couple options that we're gonna be looking at with that report. But I think the main goal here is, the holistic long-term approach to the PFAS remediation and what you need to do there. So we'll look at kind of a couple different options with that too.
Were we gonna do some piping down there? Or did we do that already?
So we actually were gonna do it, and then by resting the well, we were able to, we're not, if you're, it's been noticed by other water systems that depending on seasonal and or rainfall and or just resting wells, you can actually see the levels in PFAS drop, so we were getting 10, 12 for, parts
Awesome.
per
Good.
trillion combined, so we didn't need to get to that next level, but we know that there's an issue long-term. So
Yeah.
if you continuously need to pump that, say one of your other sources went online.
But that's still an option that, because I know that was kind of cost effective and it was acceptable.
It seemed like, and we were going through that after the meeting, can't pump directly into the well to kind of blend, but blending post the well itself somewhere. That was the tough part about finding a location to actually tap and do that.
Mhm.
And then monitoring it and making sure that it was, frost issues, because the outside would be easier, but there's not a lot of inside, but then if you go outside, then you have concerns there. So again, that's a temporary, but they're looking for permanent.
Gotcha.
And that's, we've addressed as soon as you got the initial hit that you were in violation, well over a year ago, I think at this point, you are
it
required
was-
to respond back with a short-term corrective action plan and then a long-term. This ACO just basically takes them all together, lumps them together. If you are looking for future funding, I think out of our alternatives analysis, we're going to be, pointing you into certain directions that might be, beneficial overall. Long-term concerns here, and then you need to fund it. So with these large capital projects like the treatment plant, SRF is, if it's PFAS related, as of right now, contaminants of concern and PFAS are being, principal forgiveness is a huge part of it. There are also options, your tier 2 disadvantaged community, assuming that sticks with something that's actually still viable in the near future. That's an option for you to get some actual grant funded monies towards the larger scale design that we'd be talking about too. So this helps you get, the ACO, you get points for. It's
we get-
interesting, it's counterintuitive, but if the worse your system is, sometimes the better for funding wise. You can see some of the folks that consistently are at the top of the list or, have not done a lot with their systems over the years, so.
So you get penalized if your system's in good shape.
Well, you hopefully are running so smooth that everything just, your operation maintenance is pretty minimal. You don't need any major catastrophic improvements, but
So that's what Jim was referring to.
as a
what
benefit
is
to
it?
this
As a benefit?
threatening letter.
Right,
yeah.
okay. Well, no, that's a first for me.
So the tier two you were referring to, for the federal.
The state has designated the tier 2 status, so tier 1, 2, 2, and tier 3, but the fact that the money comes from the federal government, the potential with the fact that they're going to get rid of any kind of disadvantaged communities, anything related to DEI, which is not necessarily what we're talking about here in a sense, but
Well, nobody knows. Okay.
yeah,
Fine.
that crystal ball is
Right, nobody knows. That's
I think
okay.
it's been
We
broken.
understand.
for a month, so yeah.
All right, I have something I'd like to bring up, if that's all right. I had brought it up to Ryan, just briefly about the sewer line, going up
Valentine.
toward, the Valentine, and I guess the box shop curve where the Goat City is, I guess that gentleman could potentially be interested. Where are we on that? Because I know they had, you guys were gonna do I thought you were gonna work with them and do a study, whether it was gonna go out the back way or just kind of wanted to bring that up again because it was brought up, to me. So I just wanted to get, an update. That's it.
I haven't heard anything from Steve on that. I know Steve was kind of taking the lead on discussions with whether it was Valentine or whoever was talking with the board. I know we received a plan from them about I don't know if it was their new I don't know if they were putting something new in, but we received plans from them a while ago, and after that, I haven't really seen anything else from them. So
It
I guess
sounds like there's a few other parties that are interested in this
Yeah.
line.
Yep.
In particular, that the big plaza with the Goat City is, I don't know what the name of that plaza is, as well as the shop next to it, or
Mako.
this is what I'm gathering.
Yeah.
So. That's
Yeah,
why,
was that email to you? For some reason, I thought it was to Steve Peterson. Was he on that email, or was that just to you and us?
I don't recall,
Yeah.
I don't recall who's on it.
I remember he was doing something to test his septic system. One last test to see if it was
He
viable.
remediated some, because he had some stuff in the ground that he had to remediate.
Yeah.
I know he
But
he
then he
did some
talked about
testing.
one option being going out the back of his property, the middle school.
Yeah, I think that was brought up.
Connecting up to them there.
I don't know if
and
that
then
was-
When that line, because there's a dedicated line in the road for the middle school that's gonna get reversed,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So I
Yep.
think that's what he's talking. He's got other people on the road now that are all interested in it. That probably wouldn't work doing that. It sounds like now he's talking about extending the actual sewer.
So
No.
in the past, how do we determine a sewer project's needs? So I know that we sewed around a lake because years ago, right? We did that because the lake needed
Mhm.
sewer system.
Right.
We extended on East Main Street because they were reconstructing the road, right? Something like that, right?
West
Main,
Yeah. but-
Yeah, I mean, West Main and
They had schools.
So what motivates us to say, okay, let's expand the sewer system?
yeah, I think a combination of needs area as far as infrastructure needs, as far as septic systems and stuff, but also economic development. I mean,
So
I
that's
know that
something we
West
check
Main
with Paul?
Street, West Main. Oh well, what Paul wants it, but it's
Okay.
not. What they're proposing isn't us to. I mean, you're probably not going to develop a mile of sewer main just for this project. As far as I remember, it was something where they were either going to try to put some sort of joint funding together or funding along with the town. Do you remember, Ryan? I know you said Steve was dealing with it more, but
Yeah, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the comprehensive wastewater management plan that was put together for the town. So that ultimately will dictate where sewer, that John, you mentioned those needs areas. That ultimately dictates the needs areas for the town and where the sewer needs to go. And it just so happens that that area is in one of the needs areas
yes,
for
West
in the
Main Street and
CWMP.
Mansfield Ave.
Yep. Yeah, it goes all the way down West Main Street and then all the way up,
Mhm.
what is it, South Worcester Street on the other side. That's one of the needs areas as
Yes.
well.
Yep.
So that would, and going back to that, funding option, having a CWMP and having an area, a needs area identified in the CWMP, if the town were to pursue SRF funding, that's definitely a plus to have already. It definitely gets you at the top of the list if you have a comprehensive wastewater management plan put in place ahead of time. So whether or not, the logistics of that would need to be ironed out, obviously with the property owners and
Yeah.
the interested parties in the area. But yeah, it's an option for
Well,
funding of that area. So
We have residents on Elm Street that don't want sewer with a $3.5 million grant. So
Yeah.
there's no grant on West Main Street
No.
to extend that sewer main. So
No, but
you're
if
still
you-
going to have people that have to connect and tie in, and it's going to be the same. So as far as how the decision gets made, Steve, I don't know. It was done. The last one was done before I started here, which was the West Main Street sewer extension. So,
and that one
we
was
can't
mainly because of
give
the
answers
housing
to-
authority. Yeah,
Correct.
The
The
Northern
housing authority and
authority needed
schools.
the upgrade, so that's what spurred it
Yeah.
to go ahead. So
Right.
it could be something similar in this sense. So we'd have to get into. I'd have to reach back out to Steve when he gets back and figure out what he knows about the whole situation.
Maybe
So,
invite them back to another meeting to discuss, and if there's anything we can do, whatever we can do.
Well, we're supposed to
Exactly.
be meeting with Paul next month, to talk about the MBTA overlay district. Maybe we should ask Paul at that meeting the procedure or whatever, how Paul wants the sewer extension because of, that's what he does, planning out future stuff. the question is, that's great. So what's our next step? Do we engage Weston Sampson to conduct a feasibility study to figure out what it would take in order to figure out to meet their needs? Or what? And whether or not who's paying for it, we can work that out later, but if we want to stop, I mean, you know, we're talking about it today, you know, maybe in 5 years it will be built, so,
Right.
you know, if we don't talk about it and do something, it will
Yeah.
never be built.
Yeah.
So the question is that something we wanna look into? Again, I don't know how to start it either, I mean, obviously, we're not gonna build a sewer and they're gonna come, you know, you build it, they'll come. If the needs are there, the question is, should we take appropriate action to deal with it? I don't know the answer to that.
And if so, do you only run it to there or do you
No,
run it
so we would
further?
have to make a
Yeah.
determination based on what
Right.
you said on needs
Yep,
and the comprehensive wastewater plan and failed septic systems, which is the best way of justifying it.
yep,
Well,
But if you have a
started.
failed septic system today, 5 years from today, we'll be able to fix your
Right.
problem. That's
I
the
know,
problem.
I know that's more of a critical need across the street from Valentine than at Valentine itself. I think Valentine's bigger concern is as far as the future of the property than their current state of the property, but I think there's more immediate needs across the street, so. Yeah, we'll have to, talk with Paul and Frank and.
Okay.
See where it goes from there.
All right. Next meeting, we have a conflict, on the 11th, you said,
Is that what it is, Tuesday, the 11th?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the conflict date.
and the 18th is also a conflict?
No.
Oh, that's not,
Okay, with
Does that just be the following Tuesday?
Yeah.
That would work out great for
okay.
me too.
Yeah.
Actually.
perfect,
that 18th, yep.
perfect. All right, we have any other, business, items you'd like to speak about?
So before you wanna go into executive session? Do we have to rule on that or not?
No, I think we can close out.
Okay, so.
Yep.
All right.
All right, Jim, your favorite?
I make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.